Good evening. Do we say good evening?
No.
We're getting there. Slowly but surely we're getting there.
Say whatever you want. You're up there.
It's a special day. It's a special day. It's a Yom Tov. It's a Chag. It's a holiday. And today we're going to speak a bit about the meaning of this holiday. We have, by the way, two shiurim. We have simultaneously, we have the Hebrew, which is in that area. We have the English, which is here. And Shavuot, we already did it once. That was our first experiment. That when it comes to Torah, there could be two lectures in two different languages in the same place, the same time, and you can hear. And that's actually the topic of the first shiur, that's peace. And we're going to speak about peace. We're going to speak about peace. The easiest peace that we could speak about is solving worldwide problems. Worldwide problems, that's the easiest peace that we could get to. It's like the tips in marriage. So it was one couple that they celebrated their 25th anniversary. So one of the friends came over to them and told them, well, how are you so successful in your marriage? 25 years, and you happy? So he said, he replied, we have an agreement. All the big decisions that I make, and the small decisions my wife makes. For example, who is going to win the league? That's a big question. That's that decision I make. Who's going to win the elections? That's a big decision. I make that decision. And where are the kids going to go to school? What are we going to? Where are we going to go for vacation? What is our next plan? Those decisions. That's what I leave to my wife. She makes all those decisions. So sometimes it's easier to solve peace worldwide. And in Chassidut, it says, Olam katan ze ha'adam, that for us as humans, we are like a Olam katan, we are like a complete world that we have to bring peace to that small world as well. And Chassidut has the power for that. Chassidut has the ability to bring peace worldwide, also peace between us and people around us, and maybe most important is peace within ourselves. Once there's peace within ourselves, then it's much easier to solve worldwide problems. I want to start off with connecting it to the parsha, and a question that anyone that reads the parsha and the main story of our parsha, the characters of Yosef and other brothers, anyone that reads it, learns about it, immediately the question rises, several questions, but the main question is about Yosef and the brothers, about the brothers being jealous. And the question is, okay, so we understand the message that it's not a good thing to be jealous. How can we actually live life in that way? We all know that in many situations in life, perhaps we happen to see a person that's right about our age. He's very successful. He has all of his parts in life exactly in place: parnasa, health, successful marriage. He's a leader, and we ask ourselves, you know what? I wish I was in his position. I wish I was able to do exactly what he did in life, to make the same decisions. How do we stay away from such people? Or to ask that same question again, was blamed for getting a bit jealous at Yosef, and Yosef was treated in a very different way to them. Yosef got special, we can call that a special credit from the father. Was that a bad decision that the father made? Could we blame Yaakov perhaps for what happened? What about Yosef? Many years later, when they end up meeting up, and Yosef tells the brothers, I have nothing against you. What about the father? What about Yaakov? And it works both ways. It works also to Yaakov's side. After Yaakov realizing that perhaps he treated them in the wrong way, did he feel guilt? I've got a proof that he did not feel guilt. We'll learn about it later on in the next Parshiyos, that also Yosef and also Yaakov. Yosef gives presents and gifts to the brothers and to the father, and to his brother Binyamin, he gives an extra amount. He gives, I don't remember the exact numbers, 5 chalifot smalot, 5 special suits, and that's much more than the other brothers. Wait a second, how did you end up in Egypt in the first place? Because of your father giving an extra garment to you, why didn't you learn your lesson? And not only that, we learn about Yaakov going and giving special blessings to Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh, they're the children of Yosef. And by the way, it's so interesting. We say that we give a bracha. It's not actually the Chabad minhag. There is Rabbi Wolf. If I'm not mistaken, Rabbi Wolf from London. Perhaps it's not Rabbi Wolf, but there's a famous Rabbi Shochat from London. And he came to the Rebbe for private audience with his father. And he turns to the Rebbe at the end of the Yechidus as a young child, as a young boy. And he tells the Rebbe, I want a bracha, I want a birkas abonim. So the tradition of many minhagim is that Friday night, the father comes home and he gives a bracha to the sons. He gives a bracha to Yesimcha Elokim ke'Ephraim v'Manasseh, and to the girls Yesimech Elokim ke'Sara Rivka Rachel v'Leah. So he turns to the Rebbe and he tells the Rebbe, I want a birkas abonim from the Rebbe. Wow, that's a special zechut. It was once a year that the Rebbe gave this bracha, and it was Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur, the students of the Chabad Yeshiva in 770, or any student that wanted Talmid Yeshiva, the Rebbe considered him as a son. So the Rebbe gave a special blessing called Birkas Abonim, Erev Yom Kippur. And the Zal HaKatan, that's what it's called, the small Zal, the small base medrash in 770. If you've ever been there, maybe it's the same size as our Chabad house over here. Maybe, I don't think it's bigger. Maybe a bit bigger. But hundreds of Bochrim were able to squeeze in for this special moment of Birkas Abonim. So this is a new minhag. It happens on Erev Yom Kippur, but it doesn't really happen afterwards. So the Rebbe gave him a bracha. The Rebbe told the father, I don't want you bringing new traditions in. So, but he got the bracha. He got the bracha from the Rebbe. Why do we say Yesimcha Elokim ke'Ephraim v'Manasseh? Ephraim and Manasseh, they are considered 2 tribes from the descendants of Yosef. We don't have 12 tribes. We have actually 13 tribes. But wait a second, once again, isn't this a bad decision? What about the other brothers? What are they going to think? What about our children? When it comes to family issues and things like that, everyone, the most important thing is your children. So what did Yehuda think about his sons? Wait a second, my son's not as good. What about the sons of Reuven, the sons of Shimon, the sons of Levi? They're going to be serving in Beis HaMikdash. Is there something wrong with them that you don't want to make them actually the real tribes? So, again, there's explanations what is so unique about Ephraim and Manasseh, the fact that they lived, think about it, they lived in Egypt. It's like there was no Judaism there at all. They did not live amongst their community, amongst their families. And nevertheless, they still kept their Jewish tradition. So that's the real reason that we show importance to Ephraim and Manasseh specifically. But back to Yaakov, wait a second, Yaakov, didn't you think about it that because you treated them in a good way, you treated Yosef and you gave him special credit, that caused the brothers to be jealous and to Yosef being separated from you for 22 years. So this question also applies very much to us. It's not only a question about Yosef. We've got to know that the stories of the Torah are real, and what it means real, it means that it applies to this very day. And I'm not only talking about the famous story that there was once, every Parsha they used to read Parshas Vayeshev, our Parsha, every Shabbos they used to read it. Year after year, there was always the same lady in the women's section in Ezrat Nashim that she used to cry. And they came over to her and they told her, why are you crying? So she used to reply and she used to say, Yosef, don't you remember last year that when you went all the way to Dotan, they ended up selling you to the Egyptians? Didn't you learn your lesson? Why did you go there again? And you know what? There's a lot of truth to that story. Because it happens again. It happens again. Sometimes it even happens to us again. How many times do we know that we repeated the same deed, sometimes a positive deed, many times a positive deed? People have mitzvahs that they like. Have you ever noticed that? Hanukkah is coming up, right? Who likes Hanukkah? Hanukkah is a very, very special Chag. Some people, they are very much mahader, could be making a beautiful Chanukiah. You can get a Chanukiah from silver. You put the Shem in Zayis, you prepare it, you sit there, you contemplate, meditate for half an hour. The mitzvah to meditate. Could you believe it? To look into the candles, to look into the light. So each one can pick his part that he likes within the Chag, so sometimes, by the way, our deeds that we do repeatedly, they can be errors as well. And we know that. Sometimes, unfortunately, we fall into the same traps. That could also happen. And that is why the Torah is so important, to reread the Parsha and live it actually like it's happening, mamash. So after the questions about the Parsha, we've got to try and solve the issue of peace. So I want to start off with peace as explained in Chassidut, the idea and the concept of peace. And we find it in one of the midas of Hashem. One of the midas of Hashem, we know that there are the 10 spheres, the Esser spheres, 10 attributes. With them, Hashem actually formed and created the world. Starting off from, of course, there's Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. Going back, there's Chochmah, Bin Adas. Let's speak about the midas, the attributes, the emotions, the feelings. With them, Hashem created the world. We have Chesed and we have Gevurah. Chesed and Gevurah, they are usually enemies. They don't work together, they don't get along. Chesed is all about kindness, and it's not only kindness, it's more like the idea of giving, the idea of being present, the idea of expressing yourself. Okay, so usually it's expressed in deeds of kindness. That's the common way of this attribute of Chesed. But Chesed is about a person that does not know limits. For example, we know Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had no limits, and he used it for very positive things. Only for positive things. And that is the idea of Chesed. Gevurah, on the other hand, is judgment, restriction, the idea of contraction, where Hashem contracts himself, removes himself from a certain space. That comes from the idea of Gevurah, harshness. So it's not necessarily harsh, more like you deserve it or not. Chesed does not ask the question, do you deserve it? Chesed is about himself. He's got to share. He's got to give. He's out there. By being alive, he's already giving. And sometimes you can find these people also today, that they are present. They are very much connected to what they do, believe in what they do, go forward. By the way, Midas HaNetzach. Netzach is about winning a war, about being victorious, about going ahead. What is that more connected to, Chesed or Gevurah? What would you say? Gevurah, right? So often, and I also thought so, that Netzach is Gevurah. You've got to win a war, so Gevurah hard.
On the other hand, it's eternal, so it's
Yefemot, exactly. The real Midas HaNetzach is connected, and that's how, if I don't have a diagram here, but if we would have a diagram, imagine a diagram. So we have Chesed on the right, we have Gevurah on the left, we got Tiferes in the middle, we'll speak about that in a moment, and then we have Netzach right underneath Chesed. So Netzach belongs to the line of Chesed, and Hod belongs to the line of Gevurah. That's a different concept. But what is the connection between Netzach and Chesed? Netzach is about being victorious, not going back, about being there, about proceeding. Everyone with his personal ideas as well. So that comes from Chesed, the idea of flow, the idea of abundance of flow from Hashem. That is Chesed. By the way, when Hashem is described as unlimited, or infinite, so that is very much connected to the idea of Chesed. And on the other hand, when we say that Hashem has also the power to be limited, Gevurah, we say that comes and that's linked to the idea of Gevurah. Yes?
It's also interesting when you say Netzach, because if we think about the common predation of Abraham being Chesed, Yitzhak being Gevurah, we see Abraham being armies a lot more.
Very good point. Very good point. Yitzchak was much more peaceful. Yeah. And Abraham, he was the fighter. He fought to save Lot. He was there standing and telling Hashem, don't destroy the city of Sodom. Good point. So here we have these two attributes. And by the way, water is Chesed. Can you stop water? The nature of water cannot be stopped. Water has a nature to flow down, okay? And fire, that is connected to Gevurah. And the angels, the same thing applies. Okay, we have Malach Gabriel. Malach Gabriel is the angel of Gevurah, yeah? Fire. That's Malach Gabriel. We have Malach Michael. He is connected to the idea of Chesed. So that is Malach Michael. Okay, so how are we going to solve this issue? Hashem is over there, and he's got these two different attributes, angels. How do we solve the problem between these two angels? So this is where Tiferes kicks in, and it's important also, if we would have the diagram, it would be very helpful, that Tiferes is right here, and that's very much connected to Keter, to the crown. We didn't speak much about the Keter, about the crown, but that is, we also have a crown in our personalities, that is pleasure and that is will. Will is a very, very powerful tool that we aren't always aware of, right? But sometimes we know what we want. There's in psychology, they describe this sometimes in Hebrew, it's called Ishiyut Brura, a clear personality. A clear personality means it's very clear what he wants, and that is the will, the idea of will. Some people, they know exactly what they want. They know why they are here. They know not always how to get what they want. That's already a later stage. But the idea of Ratzon, what do you want? You ask someone, what do you want? Can he answer you? If he cannot answer you, so it's not always that the will is sharpened. So that is the idea of Ratzon, very powerful. Many people ask the Rebbe, where should I learn? Or what should I learn? Have you ever wondered what should you learn? So many books, started from the Chumash, Mishnah, Gemara. Within Chassidus, there are so many books. You can learn the Alter Rebbe, the Tanya, it's the basis. You can learn the Rebbe Rashab, you can learn the Rebbe. What should you learn?
What you like.
The Femod. Many people wrote the Rebbe. They told the Rebbe, where should I go to study in yeshiva? Which yeshiva should I pick? And they were sure that the Rebbe would tell them exactly where to go. The Rebbe knows what's good for them. The Rebbe said the famous klal, L'olam yilmad adam b'makom shelibo chafetz. A person must always learn in a place where his heart desires, wants, chafetz. And that applies also to what I should learn. Some people, they come in and they say, well, you know what, I don't like really this type of topic. Gesundheit, there are many other topics, go for that. Because that is, and what is the power of will? The will is in Chassidus is called Maftecha de Kolil Shis, which means it's the key to all the 6 attributes. Because if there's no will, then it's not going to help, and a person can never feel any affection. A person cannot feel chesed, he cannot feel gevura. Once a person has a will, he wants something, he's going to use his mind and his brain, his emotions to achieve what he wants. But if he does not want that, so, okay, he could continue with the process of using his intellect and his emotions, but it's not going to be with the power of will. Many people only recognize how strong their power of will is in extreme cases. Okay, sometimes people that live for many, many years, and Bezrat Hashem, we should all be zeichet to live for many, many years, that comes more, the most comes from the will. They want something in life. If a person does not want something, so it's going to be harder for him to cope. That is based also on man searching for purpose. That I said, Adam Chapes Mashmaut. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor that wrote the book about his experience in the camps, and that if there's a why, there's a way. That's like pretty much the idea. If there's something that you want out of this, so then you will be able to be much more successful. And in those cases, it's talking about saving lives literally. So that is the power of Ratzon. Again, that is part of the crown that we are talking about. And besides in the crown, so there's the higher part of the crown, which is pleasure. We just finished the JLI course, and this JLI course was about serenity. It was about Shabbat. And one of the things that we learned is that on Shabbat, you are supposed to enjoy Shabbat. There's an idea of onik Shabbat. Gaining pleasure, is that something good or something bad? We might think, no, it's not good. And by the way, some philosophers say that if you remove pleasure, then you solve the problems of war, competition, of all the physical pleasures in the world. Not only physical, spiritual as well, but there's less tension. So that philosopher, one of the Greek philosophers, said that pleasure is not a good thing. But the Torah says, no, pleasure not only is a good thing, it depends again, you've got to control pleasure as well. But not only that it's a good thing, but it's the thing that drives us the most, even more than will, that is called koach hata'anug, the power of pleasure. And this essentially is what gives energy to the attribute of Tiferet. So we have Chesed on the right, Gvura on the left. We want to make peace between the two. The way we make peace is with the Midah of Tiferet. That gains from, and it gets all its energy and koach from Keter, from the crown. So that's a bit of Kabbalah, that's a bit abstract. But to make it a bit more practical is very simple. That if we understand, first of all, what we want, we are prepared to compromise on many things. Are we built out of chesed and gevurah? Where do we start off as human beings? Do we start from being kind or being more strict? The moment we are able to connect to what really can drive us, such as will and pleasure, soon we'll speak about the meaning of those ideas, everything fits into the right place. Everything gets into proportion. Right, so trying to make that a bit more practical, a bit more lemaaseh. So I want to bring another parable that's also brought down in Chassidut, and this parable is connected even to what we are dealing with today. So the attribute of Chesed, for example, that is the minister of foreign affairs. And the attribute of Gevurah is the minister of defense, or the minister of security, war, whatever you would call it. So each one is preparing for a different scenario. The minister of foreign affairs, what he's preparing for is another peace agreement, is another contract of cooperating with another country. He doesn't know that that country might be planning war, or might be planning to steal certain ideas. And on the other hand, the Minister of Defense, he is working not only to avoid and to make sure that no one's stealing secrets from that country, but the Minister of Defense is working on a plan to, in certain cases, to control and to rule and to conquer that country that is in very good terms with his own country. So they don't work together. However, if there is pleasure, soon we'll speak about that. Pleasure means purpose, means understanding, it means a certain mission. And will is more about our mission. If you understand that there's a mission and there's a will, or there is pleasure, which means purpose, because when someone's doing something with a purpose, that's the best pleasure that he can get. Okay, we have the NACHLAOT, what's it called?
Hierarchy.
A hierarchy, thank you. So at the beginning of the NACHLAOT hierarchy, it's like just the personal needs of a person. Okay, so just food, water, etc. And as it goes up, I don't remember all the levels, but you're talking about, say, health insurance, recognition from people around me, to be respected, etc. What is on the top? What's the cherry on the top? By the way, today it's not a cherry anymore, because everything else is pretty easy. Today, most people, they don't have a problem with food, they don't have a problem with water, with clothes, with shelter. Even medical insurance and things like that are much more accessible, especially compared to the past. Recognition from others, we are much more social today. If you want, it depends on the person, but relatively speaking, we are much more social. There's one thing that we need. Mimush atzmi. Mimush atzmi, that is, how would we translate it? That's not self-esteem, self-purpose, or thank you, self-fulfillment. Self-fulfillment. A person at the end of the day wants to know that he is contributing something, that he's needed for a reason, that he's significant, that he's important. So and that is the idea of purpose. That is pleasure. Purpose and pleasure go together. If you want to really feel pleasure, that is if you have purpose. By the way, Shabbos is a time where Hashem elevates us to recognize that we have a purpose. Even without the need of actually doing something, Hashem embraces us. In Kabbalah, it's called Aliyat Olamot. The worlds elevate themselves. That's, by the way, the reason we say at Arvit of Motzei Shabbos, Ma'ariv. So we say, Oirach Yamim Asbi'eu V'Areu B'Yeshuati. Oirach Yamim Asbi'eu V'Areu B'Yeshuati. We said twice. We repeat the last verse of chapter, if I'm not mistaken, chapter 91. We repeat that verse twice. Why do we repeat it twice? We don't really do that often. We do it by Hallel, but by Hallel we repeat a few verses twice. That's because we want to give another 5 seconds to the world to stay elevated and high. And I'll give you another example. It says that the neshamas, every neshama that for one reason or another is still temporarily in Gehenom, so on Shabbos gets the opportunity to leave Gehenom. And those neshamas, they don't want to say Havdalah. They don't want to say Havdalah. They want to stay and they want to live in a Shabbos mode. That's why we add that one sentence, we want to give those neshamas another 10 seconds of a feeling of Gan Eden. So we're not saying to drag it out and to say for 10 minutes. But for the other 5 seconds that it takes you to say it, know what you are contributing to the world, to your personal world as well. So the idea, so that's Shabbos. That's why pleasure on Shabbos is a different level entirely. But we could also create pleasure in our lives once we understand the idea of ta'anug, the idea of purpose. When a person knows his purpose, so in that case, they'll gain pleasure from that, and then peace automatically kicks in. Why does peace automatically kick in? Because once you have a purpose, you're prepared to give up on small things. You know that you are here for a greater reason. You know that there's something that only you can do. So therefore, okay, if I have to compromise on, you can give your own examples. Think about things that you need to compromise in life. Whatever it is. In parnasa, sometimes in comfort. By the way, part of the process of making aliyah means that everyone gives up on a bit of pleasure, on a bit of comfort. There's some kind of peace that we create by making aliyah. Why does a person make aliyah? Very much connected to purpose. And this is something that everyone has to answer himself. There's no right or wrong question, and there's no one answer. But everyone that's in Eretz Israel, even people that were born, by the way, in Eretz Israel, and they decide not to leave Eretz Israel, that is because they feel a real purpose in what they do, in being here. And then you're prepared to compromise, you're prepared to leave a house of 10 acres or 2 acres, whatever it is, or a parking for 3 cars, 10 cars, and to come to Yerushalayim, to the center of city, where to find parking is harder to find the real apartments. So once we understand the idea of purpose, then in those cases we can make peace with everyone. We can make peace with ourselves, with our neighbors. I'm here for a mission. There's a famous story, and there's a song that was actually composed based on that story, and that is about one of the Hasidim that was sent by, if I'm not mistaken, this is the Maggid Mimezrich, who was sent, if I'm not mistaken, Yud-Tes Kislev is his birthday as well, the birthday of the Rav Maggid, and one of the students was sent by him to learn about trust in Hashem and learn about humility, about anava. Packs his suitcase, gets onto the train, travels to the town, knocks on the door, and the chassid opens the door for him and tells him, "Welcome. Why are you here?" "Okay, the Rabbi Maggid sent me." "Great." So he welcomes him, and he sees that the house is very, very simple. No couches, not a big table, just a few chairs, not a real bed, just a mattress. So he spends there 3 days, and at a certain point, he tells him, "Why do you live in such a way?" So he told him, and like a real Yid, he answered his question with another question. And he said, "I see that you are walking around with your suitcase. You have your suitcase, that's what you have. Why didn't you bring 5 suitcases? Why didn't you bring your whole furniture with you? Or why don't you bring a bit more of a comfortable a traveling style? So he said, I'm just a traveler. I'm just passing to the next station. I'm going to go back in a few days. So he said, I'm traveling too. I'm traveling too, and we're all traveling. And once a person is traveling, he understands that yes, it's okay to put your head down on the plane. They have these boards that you can't barely put your plate there, but yeah. So that yes, it's hard to hear. I'm going to try to talk a bit louder. We'll try what the shir. This is about peace, and once we're doing the same purpose for it, what is our purpose getting? And this is a good example. Thank you for pointing it out. What is the purpose of us sitting here together? To learn Chassidus, and for them also to learn Chassidus. So if there's a bit of noise, and if we miss a word here and a word there, okay, it's not the end of the world. Why? Because our purpose of being here today is to learn Chassidus. So they're learning Chassidus. We are learning a bit of Chassidus. Our neshama hears the Chassidus. So that's again, once we understand the idea of purpose, things become much, much easier. We have will. Again, we spoke about will. By the way, when it comes to our day-to-day life, our service of Hashem, we have 3 main things that we do during the day-to-day life. We have prayer. We have 3 main things. We're going to talk about 2. We have prayer. We start off with prayer. And we have studying Torah. Those are the 2 things that we do. Within the Torah itself, we can study the revealed part of the Torah, which is the Gemara, the Mishnah, and we could study the concealed part of the Torah, which is Chassidus, the internal part of the Torah, and this is what we're doing today. The Gemara says, Sh'as Tzloisa, Sh'as Krava. The time when we daven is the time of war. It's a time of a battle. Why is it a time of a battle? Sh'as tzloisa, sh'as krava. The time when we daven is the time when we fight. Davening is peaceful. Where's the fight over there? So if we read through all the psalms that we read during the davening and the brachas of Kriya Shema and Kriya Shema itself, there's a big, big fight going on. And sometimes we just need to read it once, twice, and try and pay attention to the fight, because we are trying to convince someone there. We're showing him the greatness of Hashem. We're showing him the wonders of nature that Hashem created. We are showing him the luminaries. We're showing him the angels. And all of this is a fight between the God, the soul, and the animals. So sometimes we might not be aware of that fight going on, but it is a fight. It has a tremendous amount of power, which means that if we're successful in this fight, so we were able to win over the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul. But it's a fight. Torah is not a fight. When a person learns Torah, by the way, you should know, even when you learn Torah personally, the effect that it has over the person of the personality is very, very big, and sometimes the Yetzer Hara doesn't even recognize it. He doesn't even, he's tricked into this. The Gemara says, Barati Yetzer Hara, I created the Yetzer Hara, Barati lo Torat Tavlin. I created an antidote against that, which is Torah. So the power of learning Torah is that it could mamish. There's no fight. There's no real battle over it. But on the other hand, it's still pushing. When a person learns Torah, it's like equivalent, and in many Ma'amarim the Rebbe speaks about this. We have the tabernacle, we have the first and second temple, and we're going to have Bezrat Hashem very soon the third temple. The tabernacle was basically like Beis Hamikdash, like the Holy Temple, but it was carried from place to place. And the reason that for 40 years, more than 40 years, but the 40 years in the desert, that they schlepped the Mishkan from one place to the other, it says in Kabbalah and in Chassidut that it was to get rid of the impure sparks that were in the desert. Because the desert, we know, represents emptiness. It's not a makom yeshuv, it's not a place that people could really live in. And that's what the midbar is. And the 40 years that Am Yisrael were there in the desert, schlepping from one place to the other, they did for us a great service that we don't need to schlep as much in the desert, even though we are dragging out the scholars too long. But then they did a lot of birurim. That's the idea of birurim. Elevations of these sparks that were scattered around the Sinai desert, and not only the Sinai desert, but also today we're Moab, where Jordan is, and even parts of Syria. So, first temple, the queen of Shva, we know, came to see King Solomon. That is a different level of peace. So there's one piece that you've got to go and conquer the desert. You've got to go and take your forces, your army, and make sure that you are, as they say, boots on the ground in the enemy's cities, in the enemy's area. But there's a different type of influence that we could have, and that's the influence that King Solomon had, Shlomo HaMelech had. Shlomo HaMelech was so powerful, was so great, that he caused Malkat Sheva, the queen of Shva, to go all the way to Yerushalayim. So you don't need to conquer other countries. Other countries look for your inspiration. They seek your guidance. They want to know the Chochmah Shleima, the wisdom of King Solomon. That's a different level of peace. So again, to compare that, we have davening. Davening is about fighting with the Nefesh HaBahamis. It's about explaining. It's not physical, but you explain to the Nefesh HaBahamis how great Hashem is and how special it is to serve Him. Torah, there's no discussion with the Nefesh HaBahamis. It's not on the table. But we do speak about the terms of the Nefesh HaBahamis. And that is equivalent to King Solomon, that through his power and Hashpa'ah, the queen of Shva came over to him. And then we have the third level, which is the third Beis Hamikdash. Be'ezrat Hashem, we're waiting for that to be revealed. And what does it say? I spoke to someone that just left Yerushalayim. He went back to Kiryat Shmone. He was a mefuneh, evacuated from his home in Kiryat Shmone. He showed me pictures. First of all, it's beautiful in Kiryat Shmone. Very, very green in the air. And he showed me that mamish like a building across his house suffered a direct hit. So that's why you see that it's very, they had no choice. So what he told me, I told him, okay, so Be'ezrat Hashem, you'll be returning to Yerushalayim with the coming of Mashiach. You'll need to come back. So I told him, you're always welcome to come. And so he said, wait a second, there's a medrash that says, Atida Yerushalayim shetit pashet al pnei kol Eretz Yisrael. That Jerusalem is going to spread all over Eretz Yisrael. So we'll be maybe center Jerusalem, but there'll be Jerusalem all the way till Kiryat Shmone. And not only that, Atida Eretz Yisrael shetit pashet al pnei kol haratzot. That Eretz Yisrael is going to expand to all the countries in the entire world. What does that mean? That is the idea of peace, where we don't even need them to come over to us. In their place and in their minds, they recognize and understand and are aware of the greatness of Hashem. And that is Chassidus. You can learn Nigla, you got to learn Nigla, it's great. Shosh and Nagach HaSapora, you learn about the cow and you learn about two people fighting. That is a lot of, that's a lot of peace involved. We're not talking about the Nefesh HaBahamis, but we're talking the Nefesh HaBahamis as a language. The language of Nefesh HaBahamis is, there was a donkey and two people were fighting over the donkey. Who does it belong to? To me or to you? And the basin has to decide, we've got to split it into two. We've got to sell it and split the money. That is it's peace, but it's not the highest level of peace. And then we have Pnimius Torah, we have Chassidus. And when we learn Chassidus is so beautiful, so special, that we don't even need to use the terms of our material and physical world. We learn about the Spheros, we learn about the Ein Sof, we learn about Keter, we learn about the greatness of Hashem in the most pure way. It's so special that we celebrate Yud-Tes Kislev right before Hanukkah. Because Hanukkah is about oil. And oil, Bezrat Hashem, next week we're going to go to a few kindergartens. And before, some of these kindergartens are not religious. So I don't know how much they know about Hanukkah and how much they actually teach them about the Chagim. So we, part of the things that we do in the Bet Chabad, we go to these kindergartens and we do for them some kind of workshop before each holiday, before Rosh Hashanah. It's about the shofar, and now it's about olive oil in connection to Hanukkah. So olive oil, we're going to make the olive oil. We have the special big, what's it called, machtesh, and we use that to make olive oil, pure olive oil. And then you see when it comes out, you have 3 levels, 3 layers. And the highest layer is the pure layer, and it separates by itself. Oil does not mix with others. Okay, if you have at home also, if you have water and oil, you always know that the oil is going to flow to the top. They're never going to really mix. And that is the power of Chassidus. That's the idea of Chassidus. Chassidus is basically the peace and the pure feeling that we have also within us. And I want to end also with the idea of our parsha. We started off with that because once again, when we know what our mission is, and not only our mission but our purpose, so anything that's around us does not really count. I'm not influenced by what car someone else is driving, or what house he has, or how much he has in his bank account. Why? Because that's not my purpose. And Hashem needs me for what I am best at doing, for what I can do that no one else could do. And that comes only after understanding that we have a certain purpose over here. Once a person is convinced that there's a purpose that he's here fulfilling, so the question that he's asking is not how can I compare myself to someone else, how can I have what he has? No, it's how can I fulfill my purpose that Hashem put me here in this world. And that is what Chassidus teaches us. So it's not about the amount of clothes that Binyamin gets or that Yosef gets. No, it's not at all about that. Binyamin can get 5 different pieces of clothes more than the other brothers. Shouldn't cause them to be envious and to be jealous. Why? Because that's his mission. It's not my mission. I have nothing to do with that. And my mission is something that he cannot replace. If you take 5 different Binyamins, he would never be able to do what I can do here because Hashem put me here. And to make it more practical, so we've got to ask ourselves, okay, what are we good at doing? What do I like to do? That is my purpose. That's why Hashem sent me over here. It's not about someone else. It's not about what other people do. That's not the way we measure success. Each neshama is unique. Each neshama is special. And each neshama has its own path in this world. And that is real peace. Yes, Gary?
Isn't that one of the main reasons why we bless our children to be like the 5 of the doctor? Because 5 of God was the firstborn rights, even though he wasn't the firstborn. And Menashe wasn't jealous.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to say. Yefemot. Thank you. So that ends our other question about Ephraim and Menashe. Why does Ephraim and Menashe, why are they so special and so unique? And correct, that's the answer. That they recognize, they were the first to recognize that each one has his own unique special bracha, special mission that he's here for, and it doesn't matter what another person has. Hashem needs us for our mission, and and then there's no other problems. We can only feel peace in our life. And again, once we have this peace within ourselves, we can solve everything else much easier. Yeshar Koach. Thank you.